Monday, Super Bowl cheers for Eagles fans. Super Bowl blues for the poor old Pats. We have some great recaps coming, some thoughts, and some good rants. We have a few thoughts on an Oscar-nominated film, and then we're going to talk about some economic fallacies. It's time to get with the program. Let's start. The Eagles defeated the Patriots in an offensive showdown, 41-33. Lots of records broken on offense and defense. Not some good ones there. Barry, we know you have a rant prepared for us. You care to take us off?
Oh, I'd love to. Now, as you guys know, last night was definitely an offensive showdown. I just want to go ahead and say it was a great Super Bowl. I think by both teams deserved to win the game just as much as when you hear, hey, someday in your lifetime you're going to see a Super Bowl, it's going to be 41-33. You think to yourselves, that's going to be a great game. You think it's going to be a great game, especially when you hear there's going to be there's going to be 900 total passing yards almost by both teams. That is absolutely, that's going to be a good game. But there was something seriously wrong, and I'm absolutely dumbfounded. I'm blown away by what I saw, especially when I wake up this morning and I look at the box scores and I look at play-by-play what happened. And I'm not even talking about missed extra points. I'm not talking about missed field goals. I'm talking about coaching. I have a serious problem with what happened last night. We all watched Tom Brady try his absolute best to hold that game together, and the other half of that team, who I will get to, did not hold his end of the deal. Tom Brady set the Super Bowl record for most yards. He threw 505 yards. 505 yards. If somebody told you that somebody was going to go into a Super Bowl and throw 505 yards and he was going to lose, you look at me funny. You look at me funny because do you really think to yourself that that would ever happen? Well, it did. It did happen last night. I'm almost at a loss for words what happened. Bill Belichick was absolutely awful. He was awful. He was terrible. I am just stupefied by how bad he did. I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to go ahead and start by saying Tom Brady last night did what he's done for 7 Super Bowls now. For 7 Super Bowls. He's put on one of the most amazing fourth quarter performances you've ever seen by any quarterback on the biggest stage. His comeback was like every comeback we've seen in the last 3 Super Bowls. In the last 3 Super Bowls he's been in. Even the Super Bowl where they lost against the Giants, he pulled together a game-winning comeback. He wasn't perfect, but he was 505 yards good. How do you explain a quarterback getting 505 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, and he loses a game against a quarterback who got 370 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception? Coaching. A lot of people would say Matt Patricia didn't do his job as a defensive coordinator for the Patriots. But plain and simple, he's not the general manager. He does not coach or decide what happens defensively on New England for New England. We all know who does. It's Bill Belichick. It's all hail Bill Belichick in New England. I'm not saying, I am someone who's believed that Bill Belichick is a genius. Last night, he was everything but a genius. He was an absolute fool, in my opinion. Tom Brady, against all odds, brought them back to a 33-32 Patriots lead in the fourth quarter. 9 minutes, 22 seconds left in the game. Deep threat gone. Defense in shambles. Head coach on another planet. Pass rush about as heavy as it gets. He held his end of the deal. Bill Belichick did not. Plain and simple. He did not. Eagles then proceed to go on a 14-play, 75-yard drive and a touchdown to Zach Ertz to take the lead. They won the game 41-33, and my jaw is still dragging on the floor today as I woke up this morning. The Patriots needed one play all game. They needed one play all game. They needed one play, and who got that one play? Brandon Graham. The only difference is he's wearing a Philadelphia jersey. He's not wearing a New England jersey. He made that play. He forced that fumble at the end of the game. That's what New England needed. Who could have made that play? Malcolm Butler. He could have made that play. Where was Malcolm Butler all game long? Where was he? All these conspiracy theories about he was sick, or he was complaining about money, or he showed up to practice 3 minutes early. I don't care what it was. We are talking about the biggest stage, the biggest game in the world. The Olympics does not even compare to what the Super Bowl is. Malcolm Butler could have made that play for New England, but he wasn't there to make it. Absolutely unbelievable. The Eagles, I give them all the credit in the world. All the credit in the world. They deserve that trophy. They deserve the Lombardi trophy. That win, great. Good for them. 41 points in a Super Bowl. But plain and simple, Tom Brady showed up, held that game together, and Bill Belichick benches Malcolm Butler? Like, what is even going on here? I just want an explanation. I want an explanation. Don't you agree with me, Peter?
Listen, Tom Brady is arguably the best quarterback to ever play the game. But we have to look at simple facts. No matter how great your quarterback is, he can't not win a game by himself.
Needs help.
Doesn't play every single position. He tried to play wide receiver last night. That didn't work. What we saw was a defensive disaster by both teams. We saw only one punt in the entire game, and that was by Philadelphia. No team got a simple 3 and out.
Mm-hmm.
Never been done. This is not a record you want to brag about. Yeah, it's great for the fans to see teams going for it consistently on 4th down in the biggest game.
Yeah.
But the traditional defense was gone. They might as well have just put the practice squad out there.
There was no
This
defense.
was embarrassing. We saw the Eagles coach, Peterson, be a genius. He saw Malcolm Butler wasn't in, and he had Nick Foles pick on the young cornerback row. Over 80 yards, allowed a touchdown. They're picking on the guy that has no experience and knows he can't cover their elite receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I would do the same thing. Bill Belichick would do the same thing. And this is where I have to question Bill's decision-making. Why do you bench your best cornerback for whatever reason, be it disciplinary in the Super Bowl? This is absolutely ridiculous to think that for whatever reason, the weed, the money, like Barry pointed out, you don't bench your best player for the Super Bowl.
Not in the Super Bowl.
You let them play, and then you discipline them after the season.
Exactly. And before you continue, I just want to quote, Bill Belichick was asked, why was Malcolm Butler benched? And what was his response? I'm quoting him here. We put the best players in the best game plan, what we thought was the best game plan, like we always do. What kind of excuse is that? What kind of excuse is that for benching your best defensive player for 3 years in a row?
This is Bill Belichick being Bill Belichick. Plain and simple.
He's too obsessed with his own system.
He thinks that by not giving an answer that he's calming down the media's attention on the issue. When, in theory, he might be right. Sometimes saying nothing is better than admitting a terrible truth. But, come on, it's the Super Bowl. This isn't a regular season game. This isn't a issue of a simple disciplinary action where you're sitting them out against a team like Miami, New York. This is the Super Bowl. And to think that Bill is going to give off, quite frankly, half-assed excuses is simply pathetic. You have any thoughts, Brad?
I'm just, it really is like Bill Belichick checked out. This is the best way to put it. Bill Belichick checked out.
And Tom Brady checked in for 2.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so odd to think about this whole Malcolm Butler situation. I guess I'm trying to think about it all. If I'm Bill Belichick and you want to discipline somebody because they showed up late or whatever was going on, you might need to do it during the Super Bowl, during that time, because you don't want the issue to occur every time you go to the Super Bowl, right? If he doesn't, what happens if he doesn't discipline Malcolm Butler now? Every time they go to the Super Bowl, if they go to the Super Bowl again, They realized like, oh, we can kind of just do whatever we want.
Of course, but that's
Bill Belichick won't, will still play us.
Well, see, but that's where I think is Bill Belichick. If I were gonna penalize Butler, sit him out first 3 games of the season, make him sit out. Put a clause in his contract. If he does a disciplinary action, he misses games, and if he misses a game to discipline, he loses that week's paycheck. He'll learn his lesson week 1. Believe me.
Oh, for sure. And my big thing, though, I'm kind of with you. It's like, well, the guy's kind of gone. He's a free agent. And more so for me, I would just bench him during the game. Like, you're just like, oh, you won't play the first quarter or the second or the first half. But for the entire game, you're kind of like, okay, that's extremely questionable.
Especially considering the circumstances. I mean, look at their defense. Their defense is an absolute mess. There was clearly something wrong. And this is a defense that has a lot of players who stick together. Mm-hmm. There's friendships, there's bonds. It's like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. They did 14 years, they are brothers, they're family. And it's the same thing with a couple of these players on the defense, even if they've been playing for only 3 years. Brandon Browner actually went on Instagram after the game and posted, I'm quoting exactly, a locker room was divided pregame, most yards ever given up in a Super Bowl game, and your best defender over the past 3 years doesn't get a snap. You were hurt/burnt. He was needed tonight. Foolish pride, and that post was liked by both Dante Hightower and Jamie Collins.
Well, of course, it makes total sense. You're benching your star player on defense, and to think that isn't going to fracture your defense's chemistry and spirit going into the game is absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
It's like him benching Tom Brady and saying, we think Brian Hoyer's the best shot for winning tonight at QB.
That's why his quote makes me angry.
It's ridiculous. Doug Peterson on Philadelphia wouldn't have said, if Wentz is healthy, we're going to go with Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Why would you go with Nick Foles when your starter's perfectly healthy?
Exactly. What we're seeing right now, I think, is Bill just being too obsessed with his own system. His system has gotten to where it is, but don't start believing how much of a genius you are just because everybody around you is telling you how much.
And to go back,
that's all I had to say about Bill, it's just.
I'm not done though.
You're not done?
I'm not done.
Well,
because here's the big
Right.
thing is that he should have been a lot like, okay, let's back it up for a second. When he came out of the locker room and he's going to the media, right, and he's now stating all these things like, oh, it is what it is type of stuff, you can just kind of tell, like, he just spat on his face the entire game, saying, no, I won't start this guy. No, the rules are the rules. No, I just do it my way. It's always Bill Belichick's way.
He's
this is
the head
Patriots'
coach.
way. But it's just, it's to the point where, like, you have a system in place, and then when something comes up that's so critical. Like, what did he do if Tom Brady was late to the game?
Sorry.
You break your system.
Well, yeah, you would have to.
System.
I feel extremely bad. I love the system, but you have to make an exception.
Okay.
You do not make an exception when you have inadequate coaches in Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia. And I'm not talking about coordination skills, because we know they're good. But Josh McDaniels is a failure as a head coach, and he'll never win with any team he signs
Oh my
with,
goodness.
okay? And that's not a hot take. It's a fact.
Oh boy.
He's left twice,
Hot
and
take.
every time he comes back, tail between his legs, begging Bill for another shot. You want to know why? Because he realizes every time he goes to a team, he ruins it because he can't handle defensive coordination.
Well, plain and simple.
Matt
Bill
Patricia can't handle anything because if Bill comes up to you and says, I've made the decision, we're going to have to sit Butler tonight, Matt Patricia will probably protest that, and when he still gets shot down, he should immediately go to the film room and say, okay, I have Rowe, who I know isn't going to be effective in the capacity that Butler is.
Yep.
How can I use him to limit Philadelphia's offense?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not just let's let him run Malcolm Butler's system and see
So
if
that's
he can...
pretty much what he did, right? He just plug and play.
That's not Bill's fault. Because we know Bill defers to his coordinators. He doesn't handle every single play, otherwise he wouldn't have useful coordinators.
Well, he doesn't, but he left his coordinators.
Patricia.
He left Patricia with the possible on the biggest stage. He left him in the worst circumstances, taking his best
But if
defensive
he
player
were a good
3 years in a
coordinator,
row.
he would have figured it out.
Yes,
they weren't
I
running an
agree.
efficient.
But you can only do
they
so
weren't
much.
running an efficient defensive scheme. They were allowing the Philadelphia
I
offense
agree.
to get wide open looks, not just on Rowe, but all of our cornerbacks were not getting good coverage.
I remember when Revis left and they didn't re-sign Brandon Browner. I thought, I'm like, great. So now we totally wrecked our system and this, that. And everyone's like, no. This happens all the time. You take the best players that you have and you make it work. That's it. And so they had Malcolm Butler, they got some other guys, now they have Gilmore, and they were trying to make it work with the system. And so you that's how it has to go, is you sometimes have to switch it up. Sometimes the player gets injured. You don't have Dante Hightower, you don't have Jamie Collins. All right, we're going to have to do something different. And it looks like Matt Patricia wasn't expecting this. He should have probably gotten a heads up about this. And so he's making changes on the fly.
Even
But
if
he
he
did
was,
the simple
but what
thing
did he do?
of plug and play, and that was wrong, and I agree with you.
Right. We don't know
That's too
the
simple.
time
That's
frame
too
here.
simplistic.
I want to give some leeway to Patricia because we don't know the time frame of when this decision came down. This could have been made a while ago, earlier in the week, or it could have been made a few days ago.
They think it's a game time decision.
From
That's
what
happened.
a lot of players
Patricia
put on
should be
social
ready
media.
anyways. A defensive coordinator should be going in with multiple
Agreed.
scenarios because Bill had to adjust the offense when Cooks went down, and like a good offensive coordinator and coach, McDaniels and Belichick knew how to handle it. And up until the end of the game, the offense was still moving. It wasn't stuttering. The defense stuttered all game, and then when they finally just started exposing Rowe, they got gassed because you have Gilmore trying to cover two men.
People, yeah. I'm just, the whole thing's ridiculous. And honestly, I'm kind of curious what happens with Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia.
Well,
and I kind of
out the door.
I'm gonna keep ranting about the media thing. How come nobody stood up and said, you know what? I think Bill Belichick did blah blah blah, and I think that was wrong. Why did no one said that? No one ever said that. If I was Malcolm Butler, and I'm like, all right, my boss really hates me. He doesn't want me to play, and he probably doesn't want to resign me unless I take half of the contract that Gilmore got. Then I'm gonna go on a rant and say, guess what, guys? Fuck you. I don't want to fucking be here. And god damn it, I am so sick and tired of you, Bill Belichick, for not starting me anytime I do one thing wrong. This is the biggest game of the year. Why would you dare do this to me? Why would you dare let the whole entire team down? Why? I would just do that and put it right out there.
Malcolm Butler
Butler
already did that. He came out and he said he
Not well enough.
not well enough.
You
Maybe
just said fuck it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of these players doing this. It is what it is stuff. I am sick of it. They don't do anything.
Head coach in case you stay. You can't alienate your coach.
I will alienate him if he was being like that to me. Cost the entire game.
And then you
Cost
end up
the
like
game.
Jamie Collins, and you won't be on the team.
Yeah, but no, he's a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. He follows Matt Patricia.
But he's not on a team.
Dude, Jamie Collins is on the Browns going 0-16. He's won what? One game since he's went there?
Yeah, but he was traded.
Yeah, he's
but
on
he
the
was
Browns.
traded.
Where
He
is
can't
he
be
gone?
traded. This
He
one
has his
can't be
big
traded.
buddy now.
Jamie Collins is clearly a player who has spent more time he spent more time complaining, just like Brandon Browner all over Instagram. He had 10 posts on Instagram.
Yeah, where's Browner
complaining
now?
about-
Retired.
Where is Browner now?
But it plain and simple, I don't think the defense had anything to do with player performance. Once again, it had everything to do with coaching, and we all know who coaches the defense and who plays the plays that they play and chooses the route that the defense takes, and that's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, buddy, you blew it. I'm sorry. I've loved you for years, but you blew it. And it's time to own your mistake and stop going out there and deciding that you're just gonna throw everybody else under the bus nonchalant. I'm sorry. It's all Bill Belichick's fault.
So this is one thing that makes there's two extremes
So
in the NFL.
catching that pass is Bill's fault. He wasn't out there catching.
We're not talking about the offense. We're talking about defense.
Throws on defense. I'm saying him allowing 80 yards and 1 touchdown's Bill's fault. Should he?
Okay, I thought you were talking about a different play.
I want to see Bill's 70-year-old ass trying to guard Nelson Aguilar. Let me know how that goes. Okay?
But here's the thing: is Malcolm Butler is your best defensive player for the last 3 years. He won a Super Bowl. And he benched him probably for a extremely petty reason because Bill is too entrenched that he's a genius. Okay, he needs to stop being a genius and start being practical.
Yes. That's what's wrong with this militaristic style of coaching that Bill Belichick has.
Start letting your players play and stop benching them because
I'm sorry,
and I wish.
I want to point out that both of you are hypocrites for one because you're railing against Bill for one game. I didn't see anybody railing.
We're not talking about his whole career. We're talking about one game. That's
one
the thing.
game. You're going to define his entire career, but for
we're
the last,
not defining
for the
his
last
entire
18
career, though.
years with his success
We're not.
in New England,
I've even
you're
given
saying
him this
that
credit.
his system didn't work, that it didn't produce 5 Super Bowl wins.
Quoted. You can quote me. We can
twice.
go back in the tape.
He
and
has
we can
lost
say
twice due to nothing of his own fault.
Agreed.
If everything went
And I've
his
already
way
said
as
that.
you claim it always does, he would be walking out of this game with his first Super Bowl loss, and Brady would have 7 rings. Now, we need to give Bill some slack. It is not all the coach's fault.
Okay.
Sports people
I
are
totally
quick to judge the
believe you.
coach or the quarterback before sharing equal blame. The defense did not pick up
Agreed.
the pace.
All right.
Okay,
The
and we
offense,
agree on that.
The offense didn't catch the final throw. That's their
Yes.
fault.
Well, that's a
But
come on.
I'm just saying that. I'm not saying they didn't do good throughout the game.
Agreed.
But we
Yeah.
saw minor issues compile throughout that game, minor breaks on the leg until when it got to the final plays, that leg finally broke, and that's not entirely Bill's fault. Yes, I think he should have handled the Butler situation differently, but if these things were executed correctly, we still would have won the game.
Well, clear. Once again, I gave Bill his credit, and I'm not trashing Bill's career, and neither is Bradley, as far as I'm concerned. We're not. We're trashing him for this one performance because it is literally the day after the Super Bowl, and as fans of football, as football junkies, we have the right to be able to trash a coach for his performance.
And I have to go ahead and say this, which is there's 2 extremes in coaching. You see it both in the Seahawks and the New England Patriots. You have this New England Patriots way, it's very militaristic. These are the rules. You have to go by the rules. You follow the rules. Everything's by the book type of stuff, right? This is a hard line thing. You work hard, and that's that, right? That's all we do. We work hard, we play hard. And then you have the Seahawks, which is very optimistic, positive thinking. We're going to work this out. It's a very friendly environment. This, that, and so then all of a sudden you have this one side, Bill Belichick's side, which is like harsh punishments over petty things, like being late by 3 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side of Pete Carroll, which is, oh, it's okay. We'll work this out. It's okay. But then here's the biggest thing that I want to make. Okay, all right, real quick. This is the biggest thing about this whole thing, which is when it comes to the media, which Bill Belichick is close slip, doesn't say much, and that's okay for the most part. We've kind of accepted that. But then when somebody says, "Bill, do you want to take any blame for your decision making?" and he pretty much says no.
He just says no.
He
He
says
put
no.
the best players.
But then you have Pete Carroll, and he says, "I'm sorry, Seattle, that I lost the game for you guys because I went with a decision that went wrong, and I'm sorry."
But we also saw the problem with Pete Carroll's coaching system. There are problems with both because they're both, one's too harsh and some players can't handle that, and the other one's too lenient, so you allow locker room cancers. We've seen too many cancers in the Seahawks locker room, and that's why the Legion of Boom's been going boom for the last few years now.
Yeah.
But it's just that
Yeah, they're turning on each other in practice all the time. We have it on camera. This isn't like, you know.
We have to realize there's no proven method for traditionally successful coaching. The most successful coaching we've seen is Bill Belichick because his way works and he has the staff around him that accepts that.
Okay.
And he only signs players that accept it. But to give credit to Pete Carroll and more traditional coaches, you know, that kind of border that line between lenient and hard, it doesn't matter how the coach handles everything. You have to have a staff and an owner that are all behind it too.
Yes.
Because Butler doesn't
Butler was behind it.
Butler isn't with the program. No free ads. But that's the thing. Butler is a free agent at the end of this season. I hope he resigns because he's a talented guy and he's young. And that also might be the issue. He's a young kid who is, of course, still emotional. He wants that big payday, which, I mean, somebody as talented as him certainly deserves one. But it comes down to the point of, will this fester into a cancer? Or is this a maturing situation where Butler is merely going through the ropes of a sports player trying to find out who he is in this league? And I really think that the way we've seen Butler conduct himself the last few years, he's not a cancer. He is just a young kid who's letting his emotions get the best of him in an important game where emotions run high. And that's all I'm going to say on this.
I agree. Well, no, I am going again because here's the big thing, which is that we kind of knew there was this contract issue from the get-go, right? Bill Belichick's going, oh no, we don't really have the money. Well, he does not in that way, but he's like, no, we don't have the money for you. No, we can't give you the contract. Then what does he do? He goes into the offseason, he signs Gilmore to like the largest cornerback contract or whatever, and then Malcolm Butler's like, hey, can I get a contract? He's like, oh, it's not in the budget. It's like, but we just got Gilmore.
Well,
and I understand that Bill Belichick's only willing to pay Malcolm Butler as much as he necessarily has to, but you have to know that would be, you would have to have known that would have been a problem.
Yeah. And
Gilmore's going to be gone by the end of the season. Bill's trading him.
Why?
Because he's going to get...
He can't trade him.
He's a free agent. My hot take for Gilmore... No, Gilmore, not Butler.
Why Gilmore?
Because he's going to trade Gilmore, he's going to get a compensation pick, he's going to give Butler a slightly higher salary, and then he's going to draft some other cornerbacks and players.
Only time will tell.
And, of course, this is all speculation. But until we see Kirk Cousins sign his contract with the Cardinals,
pretty much the whole free agency probably.
We're going to have a lot of talk about with free agency, but for now, I think we have to move on.
We have to move. Oh, we feel bad. We never even talked about the Eagles. We just ranted about.
We gave them all the credit they deserve. But the one thing I do want to touch before we move on is there was one thing in that game that made me more angry than Bill Belichick. And this is an NFL problem, and I think both of you can agree with me. There was a lot of plays in that game. I think the reffing in the game wasn't terrible. I think the reffing in the game was good enough. I think it was as good as you can get with botchy rules. That touchdown in the end, was it Clement who got that touchdown at the end of the game, an over-the-top touchdown, an amazing almost catch. But even Chris Collinsworth quoted, I am stunned. I am stunned. And he said, I give up. What is even a catch anymore? The rules. You can clearly see this man. There were even Philadelphia fans saying, oh great, there's no way that's a catch. And it was a catch.
Yeah.
We have some serious rules in the NFL that need to be changed. And I know the surviving the ground thing's being changed next year, but that is only the beginning. Helmet to helmet. The helmet to helmet play that
what was that?
Cooks out of the game. They didn't call it a penalty because he was a runner because he took too many steps. Helmet to helmet contact should be a penalty no matter what. They teach you, as a defensive player, if your shoulders are level with them when you tackle them, you're doing something wrong.
Isn't it also, to my knowledge, I'm not an expert on the rule, you might be able to enlighten me, but if you're a running back and you get hit in the helmet, it's a helmet-to-helmet hit?
It's a helmet-to-helmet hit, but
So-
you don't get penalized because you're considered a runner because the rules are poorly made and the rules are poorly designed.
Right, but doesn't it apply as a helmet-to-helmet hit as long as they're not past the line of scrimmage?
Maybe if they're behind the line of scrimmage, maybe because they haven't
Because
gotten
I know
far
there's a
enough with the ball.
helmet-to-helmet protection on running backs. I'm just not sure what it is.
Yes,
So
but
why
once you
doesn't
pass the
I'm
line
not
of
too sure
scrimmage,
either.
once you pass the line of scrimmage, what's the point? They're basically saying, well, yeah, it's illegal to break that guy's neck. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Cooks was put out of the game, in my opinion, intentionally, because once again, you're taught as a defensive player, if your shoulders are level with them and you're tackling them with these new rules, you're doing something very wrong. And we've seen it all year round. People helmet-to-helmet contact.
We've seen injuries at an all-time high this year, and I think it's because of the rules.
If they're so concerned about the concussion protocol, maybe they should actually make rules that actually favor players instead of saying, no, you can break that guy's neck just because he's taken 3 steps instead of 2. You know what I mean? It's so convoluted, yet it's so simplified at the same time, these rules.
You would
and
think
it
a
makes me
league
sick.
that just had a whole scandal about the 99 out of 100 brains tested show severe degeneration and CTE.
And people like
You would
Junior
think
say
they
out
would
killing
actually
themselves.
be interested in increasing player safety, especially now with young parents saying they won't let their kids play football unless the rules are changed.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't letting their kids play. So you're not going to have people
The
at some
future
point,
of
maybe.
football hinges upon adapting these rules, and I know people will complain, the league's getting soft, but it's still a very hard game.
Aggressive game.
And these protections, which I think should extend to all positions, need to be there so players, when they retire, and whether it be 5 to 20 years, depending on how lucky you are, they shouldn't retire to then start forgetting who they are and having all of these mental issues. It is sad to see a league deny it for so long, and now that it's right out there in their face, they're downplaying such a serious issue.
They are, and players would not be keeping their shoulders level with a runner in headbutting them, straight up headbutting them, if it was going to be a penalty because they'd be off the team.
That's what I don't get. It's all on the defense, really. It's all the defensive players that all these issues are.
It is. The NFL needs to do a
defensive
better
players
job.
come in and then they just wham into all these receivers.
Dude, we've seen it all year long.
I understand sometimes you can't stop, but you can tell on a replay when it's an unintentional hit.
Like the Cooks play.
Yeah, versus between unintentional and aggressive.
The dirtiest player in the league, Nandomican Sue, is disgusting because he does these things intentionally. He goes out there and says, I want to kill Tom Brady, I want to kill so-and-so
because he knows he's not going to do anything to get thrown off the team.
And the guy has, probably lost like 90% of his earnings by the time he retires to penalties. And this is a guy who doesn't care. This is where the league needs to step in and say, instead of, we're going to give you the slap on the wrist with the 1-game suspension, you have a clear history of violating rules with helmet-to-helmet and unnecessary roughness. We're going to slap a 4-game suspension on with no pay. See how quick they learn the rules.
Yeah. Or make it a viable penalty like the Cooks play, where the team, the offense, gets a chance to be pushed farther down the field because of a blatant and disgusting helmet-to-helmet hit that should have never have happened, and they know it
I'm
shouldn't
sick of
happen.
this because this happened against Gronkowski. It happened to Gronkowski in the Jaguars game where there was a helmet. He was taken out. He was brought into the back room. They said he's out for the game. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, we've got Cooks, we've got Gronk. And then all of a sudden, nope, there's no Cooks now. It's like, I feel like this is like purposeful at some point.
It was.
And I also don't understand, if they take out one of our guys, why can't one of those guys be taken out? Not in the aggressive way of a Patriots play takes him out, but in the sense of like, okay, Cooks can't play. Maybe we don't have, maybe we don't have one of the Philadelphia players play now.
Well, that's the problem.
Maybe we don't
Well,
have
these players
Alvaro play anymore.
That's where the NHL has it, right? You commit a penalty, you have to sit out.
Exactly.
Two guys get into a fight, they both sit out.
Or the offense gets some
that'd
kind
be cool.
of
some sort of power play, maybe.
And I'm sure these players know plenty about the concussion protocol. Helmet-to-helmet contact is almost, you're going to get sent to the locker
Yeah.
room for some amount of time.
Agreed.
And a lot of the times, the entire game.
And it's weird because the Gronk one, right? And he got up and he's fine. He's standing there. They're like, no, you have to come with us. And you're kind of like, okay, as soon as there's a helmet, and even if there's a hint of a concussion, out. You're like, wow,
the
that's
concussion
interesting.
protocol goes through 3 steps. And I'm going to have to slightly paraphrase, but upon
that's
my
good.
investigation of them, the first step is you're evaluated by an NFL doctor who does like the basic eye tests, you know, follow my finger, blah, blah, blah. And if you fail their initial inspection, they take you over to the tent, which has now been featured a lot this year,
The tent.
unfortunately. And if they take you to the tent and you fail those protocols, you go to the locker room and you're done.
Okay.
If you fail that, you go to the locker room and that's where they really start digging at you. And rarely ever, I believe, they've maybe let
They
one
never
or two,
revert back, yeah.
Right, they've maybe let 1 or 2 players back in, but that was, several quarters later, like towards the end of the game. And I think that that's a process that is good. I like the 3 checks but we have to make sure that I think more than one doctor should be doing the examinations, and that a player should, if they have to go even see NFL doctor, they should sit out a minimum of 5 minutes.
I just
Let
don't
their
want to
heads
see.
adjust. Because concussion symptoms don't always manifest right away.
I agree.
Yeah, CTE is something that comes over time, but I'm just tired of seeing things. I'm tired of seeing players like Juju Smith-Schuster get taken out by
That was
somebody
awful.
like Vontez Burfict and absolutely obliterated and put out for the game. Or there's just been too many of them this year. There's been too many of them.
I'll
this
never
year.
forget when the Dolphins took out Joe Flacco, like from behind or whatever.
It's called targeting. It's called targeting. They know who the best
And the
players on the
Saints
field.
won a championship doing that.
Bounty Gate. And I think the one that's really interesting, for my opinion, was the one with Cam Newton. He was playing against the Broncos earlier in the year, and what was it? They were going to put him through the tent and stuff after the helmet to helmet contact, and then all of a sudden he's like, "What the hell am I doing here?" And then he threw the tent people away, and then he just put the helmet back on and went back on the field. I'm like, can he do that? Like that's like so it's I don't know. The whole thing's pretty weird.
And there's a lot of things that need to be moved, but moving forward,
No, I have one more.
Oh,
topic.
my
Bradley.
All right. Now, there's one play in particular that I wanted to talk about, which was you had Tom Brady, right? And he was going to catch the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady, I'm going to give it to somebody else, and I'm, walking away, and all of a sudden, he's the receiver, and they throw the ball for him, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. It was very close.
It was
but
very
didn't
close
work out.
and a very difficult
But
pass.
then, all of a sudden, Nick Foles does the same exact play in the end zone. And you gotta be, and it's like the same exact play, same styling and everything. And you're kind of like, how odd is it that both teams are doing this all within like the matter of a few minutes from each other? So now my question is,
Not a coincidence.
who had the play first? Did someone steal it from somebody else?
Bill's been using those types of plays for years. We just saw, what was it, last year, the flea flicker with Edelman?
Yeah, with Edelman, and I think
Yeah, but it
Tom
was
Brady
like the same
ran
exact
around.
play. But
Right,
it was
but
the
these
same play.
plays
They had the
plays,
same
as
play.
they said, are always in the back, very back of a playbook because it's we might as well try this. This is if your game plan's not working. You try and use a fake out.
Yeah, there's no way possible that New England. Let's not even tickle the idea that New England took this play.
I'm not saying
I will
New
literally
England did.
vomit on
Hey,
radio
hey,
if I hear that.
Brady did it first, then Foles did
Brady did it first. I
So maybe Philly took it.
I think Philly
Oh.
had it in the back of their playbook. They saw it and they said, "You know what? Let's try it. Why not? I give them credit."
Doug Peterson had a lead, and he wanted to give a giant fuck you to Tom and Bill by doing what they couldn't do. And since it worked, it was the biggest middle finger he could give
probably the
for
biggest, yeah.
being considered the underdog all week going into the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're going to get crushed by Tom Brady. Tom Brady's going to blitz for 6. You had New England fans already lifting the rafter into the stands.
Yeah.
And while the hype was justified, that's a very great Patriots team. This team has a great first-year coach in Peterson. I mean, Nick Foles proves again why he's been so underestimated for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're just smart. They knew what they were doing, and they knew that they would have to play hard going into this game.
And one more thing, which is the aggressiveness. You have to give it to Peterson, which is, imagine if he didn't play aggressive.
Well, he was aggressive. He was aggressive, but he wasn't Seattle or he wasn't Seattle aggressive. He wasn't Atlanta aggressive.
It was appropriate.
They did not try to outplay New England. They said, we've got a game plan. We're going to go out there and we're going to stick to our game plan. And we know exactly how to get to Tom Brady. We know how to slow him down. We know how to tire out the New England. And all credit to Philadelphia. All credit to Philadelphia.
All right.
But moving forward, Peter has some hot movie takes.